Good morning, fellow car enthusiasts. My name is Eric, this is Gridline Go, and today I'm going to do a little product review of something that's a little different than normal. I've been looking for storage solutions for the Doozie and going off-roading, camping and all that, and I think I found something interesting, very unique, and absolutely suitable. For this quick review, I do have my buddy companion right there, Mr. Ted, hanging out with me. I will be doing a short install of this, but first let me go ahead and show you and tell you a little bit about what I have here. So I have here the Plano All-Weather Tactical Gun Box. It's actually a gun box. It's a gun case for storage and transportation. It's exactly what I had in mind for storing. It's very low profile. It's long, it's 42 inches long. It's somewhat deep, it has a good depth into it. And I know that it will be good with temperature, water, and sunlight. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 locks, 2 in which have actual key lock here and here. That way you can lock and secure your stuff. Obviously it's a gun case, it's made for guns. You want to keep those safe inside. It flips up, it's got a nice little detent here, kind of locks the lid open so it doesn't flop back down or flop all the way back. It is a little bit flimsy, but I'm not thinking of it as flimsy, I'm thinking about it as flexible. Flexible is actually really nice for impacts and any other type of harsh things I might throw at it. Inside it's got a nice thick foam case that this is actually glued at the top. Down here you have a thick foam layer, which actually, if you can kind of see, is cubed. That way you can organize it how you want to fit your personal gun. However, I'm not using it for guns. I'm going to do this review solely just as a storage unit itself. And so far I'm very, very much impressed, but this layer here actually will come out. It does go all the way through to its lower layer here, which matches the top. This piece here is also removable, but that is the top piece here on the lid is glued. And under it, when you remove it, you do have a pressure valve, which can be regulated from the bottom there for when you're doing altitudes. It's got a nice stamping here, letting you know that it is made in the USA. What up? So my plan with this here is to have my spare parts, 2 upper ball joints, 2 lower ball joints, 2 extra tie rods, and 1 front axle. Because we know on these Isuzus, Honda Passports, they could be a little fragile. So I think that's a good spot to put everything. I didn't want anything super tall and super bulky when I was gonna put it on top here, especially for low clearance. Like me, I live in a parking garage area and I'm already pretty high up already. But not just for the malls, not just for low clearance garages, but also tree branches and stuff like that. I don't really want to get it snagged on any of those branches and pull it off, rip it off. It does sit pretty low, which is something I was kind of hoping for and I'm looking for. And I think it actually looks a little bit better than having a big bulky box on top. So I'm gonna go ahead and install it, and it should be pretty easy. I'm only gonna put 4 little bolts into it. Having this front runner rack actually really makes it nice and easy for universality, for installing anything you want up there. I'm going to show you that here in a quick second. If you look here on top of this rack, each one has a groove here in the center that runs the length. That groove actually has a little hole here, which is super awesome for bolts that are 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter heads. So I'm using this one here. This is a 5/16 with a 1/2 inch head, and it's about an inch and a quarter long. And I'm going to use this, 4 of these as mounts. So you can't use anything bigger or smaller because it doesn't work. So what happens is you stick your head in there like so, and then you can actually slide it back. And by doing that, you can't turn it. it uses itself as a lock. So it holds the other side of the head as you put down the nut in your washer. You tighten it down, and it works as simple as that. So I'm gonna put 2 here. I got 2 over there, and I'm gonna drill 4 holes into the box there. Set it up, and we'll see how it looks. For this install, you will need a ratchet, an extension socket, 4 bolts, 4 washers, 4 of these nuts, and a janky drill bit. And there we go, I got the 2 bolts there, 2 bolts added there. So what I find actually great about this is it really is suitable for what I plan on using it for, which is some toe straps, strap downs, and extra parts. And there's plenty of room in here for all of that. I'm really excited to have these locks, which really make that a lot nicer and safer for when you're out and about and you don't know where the area. If you look inside of here, around the edges, kind of, there is a seal. It goes all the way down and around and seals the lip here, so it is weather and watertight, so you know it'll be secure from the elements. In the sun here, you can actually pick up some pretty good detail in how this box is made. It's like a composite plastic almost, which does make it pretty strong. It does make it pretty flexible because this stuff is pretty thin. I did notice that when I drilled these holes out. It is relatively thin. It is probably about the thickness of here too. And speaking of here, what's really cool about it is if these locks aren't good for you, there are holes here so you can run your own little master lock on both sides. The only thing I don't like is this handle being in the way. In fact, it looks like there is a little pin here that holds it in place, but I don't want that here. I don't necessarily like it. It's kind of in the way now. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and try and slide that pin out so I can get this closer, get my finger in here to unhook this latch because it's kind of in the way. Like I said, I'm reviewing this as a storage solution, not necessarily as a gun case, because obviously this would be one great gun case. Give a little pull and twist. And that second pin out. This handle is now eliminated, so that makes that look so much better. Makes it look flush, makes it look clean, makes it look really, really good actually. So I'm now gonna reposition it a little bit closer and then give it its final snug. All right, so now it is finally positioned and I have a good enough room, to stick my hand in here to unlock it. The handle's not in the way, so this is actually all the way down now. It's not being popped up because the handle is in the way. And then I also have access back here between my lights, and I have the one up here. I do like how there is so many latches, but it also is kind of annoying. I'd rather have one long latch here and another long latch here, but that's how this one is made, and that's okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and load some things up in here and see how much space I do have after I put some parts and some straps in here. Okay, so I have my parts box here. I've got some tie rods and ball joints. I've got my strap. I have my tire air compressor here in the bag and some more ratchet straps for just storing stuff or tying things to the rack. But actually, while I'm goofing off here, I got my compressor in there. This is what I'm talking about with the flexibility of this thing. It really is pretty flexible, holding it down here, pushing down all the way here. It can't close, obviously, but you should be able to see how much it's bowing. It's actually quite significant. It's just a very, very flexible box. Very flexible. Well, let's see here what exactly we can do about this, because I kind of want this up here, and that'll fit, that's for sure. Maybe not necessarily that way, because it does definitely hit. But by setting it down, it actually works quite well. Put it here. Oh, that'll close. That'll definitely close. Oh yeah. I'm liking that. That is cool. Okay. One, two, three, 4, 5. And there you have it. You got your solid, trusty Pittsburgh tire air compressor. The hose is in the bag. Spare parts, tow strap, ratchet straps, and a sturdy storage solution. And I can tell you that this is pretty good, actually. I am not mad about this situation. I am not mad about it at all. Also, for the record, it's the same concept here for my track boards. I just ended up getting a long bolt, 4 of these, 2 over there, and some wing nuts and washers. That cost me a whopping $10 for everything. And they wing nut down and they're fastened pretty good. Some awesome wang nuts. They do sell quick release mounts and stuff like that, but you know what? I'd rather just run with these. These are something I had anyways, actually. I didn't have to go and buy these. I bought these a while ago for something else and never got around to it. That project passed, and now I had some leftover hardware. Now I just bolt them down with some wang nuts. Okay, the wang nuts I did get. The bolts and washers I have. This is pretty good. Not gonna lie. JD christened them. I gotta use them at Pismo. Got stuck a few times. They were definitely a bitchin' tool. So, I mean, that doesn't have to be tight anyways, but there you have that. You got some skid marks on them now. Okay, so I'm inside now and I want to break this down a little to conclude. I want to stress this one more time. I am reviewing this as a storage solution and not as a gun case in which it was actually designed for. So let's do this pro-con style, and I want to start with the cons because, let's be honest, that's what really matters. So it does take up quite a bit of space being laid out on top of the rack itself, with the dimensions of 42 inches long, 16 inches wide, and 5.5 inches in depth. It's not completely waterproof, but you probably won't be submerging it into a lake or a pond while it's on your roof. The plastic they use is a little thin, which could affect its longevity. I'm really interested to see how that will turn out in the future, which leads me to my next con, which I'm not sure if the sun will eventually fade it or if it'll warp the plastic over time. So we'll see how the UV protected really is, and that is to be determined. At this point, I have had it on the roof rack for about 2 weeks now, and So far, it's held up quite well. It's always been in direct sunlight. It's been pretty warm around here. It's been in the low 90s. I have washed it as well, and it's gotten pretty dirty at times. Next con would definitely be organization could be difficult because it has quite an oblong shape. It's not exactly square. So as far as storage goes or organizing that, you might find it a little bit difficult, which would make it nice for straps and stuff like that. Like the softer items, not necessarily hard concrete items that don't have any give or flex in them. So maybe like a pillow or some blankets. Toe straps like I have, ratchet straps would be most ideal. There are 6 latches holding the lid on, which could be very annoying, and I'm not entirely opposed to it, but I mean, if you're getting in and out of that thing pretty often, it might get annoying. So I hopefully won't be going in there for parts or ratchet straps. More likely my tire pump, filling it up after trail day or something, or if I had a flat, that's the only time I'll really be in there. So I won't be in there very, very often. Getting camp supplies or whatever, you know, back and forth. Let's move on to pros. And this is my number 1 pro, and it's because it is lockable. There are 2 given keys, and there are 2 eyelets for padlocks if that's something that you'd prefer over the keys that are given. The install was mindlessly easy. Just a few bolts, drilled a hole, racked it up, but that might defer a little bit to your application, but this is how I installed it, and it was fairly easy. The weight is minimal, so that's actually very beneficial because you don't want to have a bunch of weight on the roof. It makes your car very top heavy, especially when you're off-roading or you're on a very awkward, you know, hill, and when you're hitting bumps, you don't have that excessive sway, and I probably won't be able to load much weight in there anyway, so that's going to keep the overall weight pretty low. There's good usable storage space. It's about 3,700 cubic inches of space in there for you to organize accordingly. Like I said in my cons, it might be a little bit difficult, but there is quite a bit of room in there alone. It could be very universal for given the foam that it comes with, and you can use that for your personalization pleasure, and you can do whatever you like with it, and that can actually be very beneficial for the more fragile items, so you have a little softer impact. The next pro is that it's low profile for high clearances, and it's ideal for mall parking garages, so you can get in and out of them quite easily. But if you actually take your car out off-roading and camping and stuff like that, it's the trees you're looking out for. Those low-hanging trees, they tend to snag the top of the roof depending on how narrow that trail really can be. And that's kind of what I was looking for anyways, because having a big bulky box up there could have been annoying, getting snagged on there. There are limb risers and stuff I could add as well, but I want to have something a little bit more low profile anyways. Also, having that low profile box helps with reducing drag, so you're not actually accumulating drag at least, which may be helping with your MPG. This I have not tested and probably won't be testing this, just theory. Just, you know, thinking out loud here. And it doesn't produce any more wind noise than the truck already has or the rack. And we all know for those long road trips, wind noise is a little bit more vital, so that you know, you get a little headaches, a little annoying after a while. You just keep hearing the air rushing. So out of the few hundred miles that I've already driven with the box on the rack, I haven't noticed any more or less wind noise. However, it does sound just fine. My next point is that it is flexible, and that's good for impacts for those low-hanging trees, maybe even rocks that kicked up on the trail, or even stuffing whatever you really want to go in that box. It will flex a little bit, actually quite a bit, but a little bit for it to latch again, which is actually pretty sweet. And it does help nicely with that because, you know, the harder plastics have a tendency to crack. We'll see how this one goes over time. Now, it is weatherproof, but it is not completely waterproof. It is sealed enough for dirt and some moisture, and there is a pressure relief valve on the bottom that will help with it not imploding on itself or exploding the seal when you're changing elevations. From here in LA, we're about 1,000 feet or so. For those other people who go camping or off-roading, you're typically in the 4,000 to 6,000 range. And it's also really great about it is that it is made by Plano, and they do have a very strong backing with outdoor equipment, hunting, camping, fishing, storage stuff. And they do have a pretty good name, a good backing behind themselves. So you know that you're actually getting a decent product. So I hope you found this at least a little helpful and enlightening. Comment below any questions, comments, or concerns about the box, or what you even think about it.